everyone and welcome. My name is Chris. I'm the designer for F4 and we're going to show you how to assemble the Carbon 1720 set. So in front of me you've got all the screws that come in the kit. There's M6 by 20 for the rear stabilizer, there's M6 by 30 millimeter for the mast, and there's some M8 screws to put on the front wing. So we recommend always starting with the fuselage, fitting the fuselage on the mast. So pretty simple, fuselage, tenon connection. Make sure that the mast front wing is going the right direction, so feel along the mast where the leading edge is. And you simply put this, insert the mast into that slot, and then use your fingers to really push it down. You really want to get it all the way seated, so I can kind of feel it's seated down. And I'm just going to put the 3 M6 by 30 millimeters in here. So one thing to note is that this foil has been assembled already, so we've got Tef Gel. This is a PTFE, well, really a lubricant anti-corrosion paste that you can use, and it really helps prevent any kind of seizing or corrosion of these issues. So I'm going to get my Torx T30 and fasten these bolts down. We recommend you use this by hand. You can see I'm kind of using my arm as leverage. I like to put down the first screws, the leading edge side and the trailing edge side first. The trailing edge side is where all the load is, so you really want to make sure that's tight. So I can kind of feel with my fingers as the fuselage goes on, it's really seating all the way in. You want to make sure that that's really tight, there's no play. If it's not seating all the way, you really want to kind of cinch these up, torque them up in sequence, right? So make sure that they're all tight. If the front one loosens up while you're riding, you know it's not tight enough. And this back screw is really critical. If this screw fails, you know the wing can fall off, and so you don't want that. Okay, so I've got this tight. I can see that the screws are all flush with the fuselage, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the front wing. So we have here the 1720 front wing. You can see we've been out in some low tide days. Okay, so this this fits into the slot. So I kind of tend to line that up with the front edge. Now, and when you're putting this on, make sure that it's well seated, and you can look down into these holes. I don't know if we can get that on the camera, but look down into these holes, and you want to make sure that the threads are lined up, because the best way to really get this to thread is to kind of use your fingers and get the middle screw. If you have to, you can kind of lift the wing up and see how it's kind of floating there, just to get that little screw, that first middle screw, kind of a few threads down. So I've got that in there kind of threaded. I can kind of float the wing up and get the other one threaded. If there's any resistance, don't push it, because you can damage or cross thread the thread. So I can kind of feel with my fingers there. Now the T30 isn't quite the right size, but you can use that. Now you want to kind of cinch these up in the same kind of sequence, so get the top one to go down. You'll notice that if your wing is tight on the fuselage, it will kind of find its way into the right slot. It kind of aligns the keys of the wing onto the mast. So we're gonna tighten these down. If it somehow doesn't go easily, look down through the hole and make sure there isn't any debris or extra paint or anything like that. I mean, we try our best to make sure that the holes are clean and everything. And you can see I'm kind of using my both hands here, because you really want this tight. So any play in these connections will affect the stability of your foil. So the next thing I do is I kind of gently just make sure that wing is well connected on there. I can kind of feel with my fingers. I can put my fingers across the gap there and just make sure that there's no play whatsoever. You really don't want to have any play. Okay, so I can kind of feel along. Also, I can kind of flex the wing and see that there's no play in the fuselage to mast connection, and that all seems pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the rear wing. So this is the 340 rear wing. You can see there's a little recess or key in here. So in your kit you should have a special shim, one that looks like this, or you may have a flat shim, but make sure that your kit's got the shim. 2 degrees is a good place to start. This will determine how the foil lifts up and where your balance is on the foil. So pretty self-explanatory. That goes on the fuselage first here, and then we got 2 20mm screws that will line up there. So I'm gonna stick those on, get them kind of finger tight, and here I'm gonna reach for the screwdriver. Then you're pretty much okay. So that's pretty good. All right, so you can see that's pretty tight. The fuselage is tight. Everything's tight, and that's pretty much it. Happy riding.